Hi, my name is Denis Carrier, and I will teach you how to make some settings on the MBI-3000 Rhumart generator. Looking the generator from behind. The two connectors on the right receives connections of global applicators, which are most of the time Maxi 2A rings. You will probably connect only one set of global applicators, so you absolutely need to connect them into the upper 3-pin connector. More than that, you also need to adjust the upper right selector rotative selector to the first position that says 1 or .5 millisecond. If you need to connect a second global applicator, evidently you connect it to the lower position, and then you move the upper selector to one of the two other positions. On the left side of the panel you have another pair of connectors, with this time 5 pins. Those are the connections for the local applicators, which are normally the rebound 4A pads. Again, you must connect the applicator into the upper connection, as you probably own only one set of local applicators. If you have additional local applicators, connect them into the lower connection. We will see later how to select them on the front panel. In the upper middle section of the rear panel, you find the left or right switch. This switch is very important because you will have to move it depending if you are using local or the global applicators. Remember that local and global applicators can't work at the same time, so you have to think to move the switch each time you choose to work with different applicators. This is probably the most common mistake people do when starting to use the system. The last connector, which is completely on the left side of the panel, is used to connect dedicated TENS unit. Those TENS have electrodes, but I will not get through this as this feature is not very popular. The adjustment knob on the upper left corner of the rear panel adjusts the volume of the beeper, which is a sound that indicates that the timer is running and the machine is generating a treatment. Most of people I know shut off this sound, turning the knob completely counterclockwise. In the middle of the same panel, you also find the fuse. You will probably never replace it, but if you need, you must use a 3G 3/4 of an ampere slow blow type fuse. For people that need to travel or to connect the system to 240 volts, there is a voltage selector at the bottom of the panel. You can't move the selector when the machine is running, as it is risky to make damage to the electronic system. You will find most of the adjustments on the front panel of the Rhumart MBI-3000 generator. Completely on the right is the power switch. When you push and release it, a green LED will turn on. Just aside is the amplitude control knob. This adjustment will set the strength of the output signal to the applicators. The bar graph just over it is graduated in 10 sections and tell you about the power of the output. The following knob is called the pulse frequency and serves to select the basic frequency that can be modulated after then. Note that this adjustment is no longer available on more recent generators like the MBI-3003 or the MBI-2000, so the basic frequency is then at 60 Hz and can be changed. After then, you have the modulation adjustment. This selector will take the basic frequency previously selected and will make strings of pulses. Generally speaking, it appears that the modulation of 2 has anti-inflammatory properties and a modulation of 3 as regenerative properties, but as mentioned, those are generalities, and each person being different from another, you should not take it as an absolute recipe. Next to that, you find the Mac Time selector that will set the timer up to a maximum of 15 minutes. After choosing the time of the treatment, you have to push and release the orange push button completely on the right to start the treatment. In the bottom of the front panel and on the left, you have a 1 or divided by 10 selector. This adjustment is there to work with very low frequencies, mostly used with a tens unit, but I will not discuss of this subject, so be sure to set the selector to 1. There is an identical slide switch selector on the right side of the panel called Polarity. Always keep this selector to the N position, which means north, in order to simplify the use of the applicators. This selector is there because at the beginning of the production, there were huge applicators screwed to the wall with a flexible arm, and it was very complicated to change the polarity. The last knob in the lower right corner is called the left applicator selector. It allows you to select how many local applicators you want to activate, but it is useless as you absolutely need to put the selection to the second position, which is 1-2. Unless you are using a two outputs, a set of applicators, and then you have to set the button to 1-4. You will see a red LED blinking just over the Start Treatment button. It indicates that the electronic current is flowing through the applicators. If this light doesn't turn on, there is a selector on the wrong position or maybe an applicator misconnected. It can also indicate an electrical or an electronic problem. For your convenience, it is easy to adjust the height and the angle of the front panel. Just pull each side of the handle near the body of the generator and adjust the height and release it.